Here we go. Here we go. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. But here we have another crazy story. Atlanta. Atlanta's a different place right now. But once upon a time, there was a guy. His name was Marlo Mike. Imagine that. Marlo Mike. Was that his name? I don't know.
3 shootings in Atlanta overnight. Police say someone shot and killed a man in a single vehicle wreck on the interstate.
The people wanted to link Baby Drill to a different murder, and that's the Lil Marlo murder.
We ain't even gotta get out and shoot. Y'all ain't gotta need that.
Start bitching. I don't even promote that, but they gotta tell me.
You gotta bless me, bro. Slow down, bro.
Lil Marlo. This is way back in the days, but not too far back. In the early 2000s. I mean the late 2000s. When Atlanta had individuals like 21 Savage, the Baby, they try to make a name for themselves. This when young Marlo was around though.
The difference when it's like right there, you experiencing this shit like it's like a battle.
Back in this shit sweet, I got that fire.
Man, fuck that shit. I'm trying to kill Lil Christo. They gonna be another dead
Okay.
off. Fat Zay, that's another dead off. Lil Quan, that's another dead off.
Okay.
That nigga was hella deep. That nigga was probably like 100 deep or some shit.
And he's the only one that got hit?
Yep.
Damn right, I'm worth 50 million. I ain't finna let none of y'all niggas, dusty niggas kill me.
Nigga had got hit. Damn, he should have died.
There's so much going on in that apartment complex.
Okay.
It's just nuts. They're all throwing up gangs.
Atlanta's a crazy place. At least back then, Back then, all these individuals wanted was a reputation. They wanted fame too. They received it. But they had to pay a price. At least some of them, at least.
Fuck nigga better free rap before I start coming around the store.
Okay.
Breaking news, a man is dead after a shooting.
You the one who brought Drill to Atlanta.
I did.
Big boy ass shit, man. Get in there, man. Fuck around there, man. On Pete.
Perhaps the shooter didn't realize
Okay.
is that there's a surveillance camera right over there.
No good on. He sent me down no road that he think I can't handle.
Okay.
I woke back up, he was still shooting. 9 shots, over 30 rounds. He killed his mama too.
Shit, nigga, stop playing with me, nigga. I am PFK pussy. Give a fuck how a nigga feel, nigga. See me.
Killed that bitch dog, now that back in this shit sweet, I got that fire. Niggas think shit pussy. Text the Baby Drill, bitch, you gon'
Okay.
On July 11th of 2020, 30-year-old Rudolph Johnson, better known as Lil Marlo, was driving.
Lil Marlo was leaving the studio. He never made it home. Matter of fact, Lil Marlo's death is unsolved up to today's date. I'm trying to figure out who did this to Lil Marlo and why. Have to admit, it's about time though. It's about time those individuals face responsibilities. Imagine that. Imagine facing the responsibility for the crime you committed. I'm just talking, that's it.
Along Atlanta's Wine 285 interstate near Benjamin E. Mays, before another vehicle pulled along and began opening fire, killing him.
Several in the hip-hop community have taken to social media to offer their
Okay.
condolences.
His death would reach headlines, bringing eyes all around the world to the side of Atlanta the media doesn't show you. But what outsiders don't know is that Marlo's death would be a tragedy that would spark a deadly wave of gang violence in both the streets.
But here's the thing right here. Marlo, he grew up in the streets. He was making money in the streets for many, many years. So it's kind of hard to figure out who did this to him. It's a terrible thing. That's what makes this case so hard to solve. Because Marlo was in the streets his whole life for the most part. I'm just talking, that's it. Let's get back to it though. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Unbelievable, think about it.
And Atlanta's music scene. It is the murder that sparked all the wars in the city.
Okay.
Atlanta. It is the most populous city in the state of Georgia and is rapidly becoming one of the biggest cities of the South, being commonly known as America's hip-hop city and the Black Hollywood. It is the birthplace of rap's signature trap sound, made infamous by figures hailing from the east side and Zone 6 side of the city like Gucci Mane, Waka Flocka Flame.
What's going on in Atlanta, though? What's going on in Atlanta, though, to be honest? Little Meech done went to... I said Little Meech. I mean Big Meech. They said Big Meech done went down to Atlanta and turned everybody out. What I mean by that, he made everybody want to get rich. He made everybody want to get money. That's what I heard, at least. Either way, imagine that. Big Meech, he free right now, though. Big Meech free. And he's still wearing diamond earrings. Imagine that. Imagine doing 20 plus years and you come out and you're still wearing diamond earrings. Let's get back to it, though.
And while many tales have been told of the newer generation hailing from Atlanta, such as the player style associated with Rich Homie Quan and Lil Baby, or the now infamous Atlanta drill scene with figures like Baby Kia and Anti the Menace, there are many legends surrounding the old Atlanta that aren't discussed in mainstream media. And to understand a story like this, I must first take you back to those times. Simpler times, before niggas started moving here and kicking us out our hoods, making rent high as fuck.
Imagine that. Okay.
I feel like the new generation don't know the old Atlanta. They really don't know it like that. They may have heard from it, like from some of their homeboys, or OGs in the hood, big homies of the hood. You know what I'm saying? I know their uncles and fathers, but they don't really know. You know what I'm saying?
In the 80s, Atlanta was like most other big southern metro cities like Memphis, Baton Rouge, or Birmingham. Big enough for economic potential, but small enough that everyone knew each other. African Americans were just coming off the second wave of the Great Migration and would take over lots of southern cities and make them home for generations to come. Atlanta at the time was sprawling of affordable public housings and cheap homes for poor families. And by this time, most of the neighborhoods in the inner city were majority black.
Where's Shorty Low at?
The crack cocaine epidemic affected most areas in poverty in multiple cities. This introduced small-time dealers and robbers in the inner city of Atlanta, which would begin.
Either way, Atlanta, individuals have been dibbling and dabbling for a while. As I said, Big Meech went down there, he turned it up. He just turned it up. That's why they said Pee Wee Long when he got back to that trap. And imagine that. I'm about to make a video about Pee Wee Long when he got back to that trapping. They said Pee Wee messed around, probably got to do at least 15 years. Imagine that. But let's get back to it, though. We're not talking about Pee Wee in this video.
Small dose of crime. It wasn't until by 1986 where a gang of big-time drug dealers known as the Miami Boys began moving from southern Florida and started setting up shop in nearby northern cities. Atlanta was one of those cities. The Miami Boys would take over many of the projects, a lot which were already crime-ridden, and sell their products and recruit more members, while also claiming hoods and territories.
Tell me about the original Miami Boys. The original Miami Boys. I'm one of the original Miami Boys. Back in 1987, I had just got out of prison. I went to Atlanta, Georgia. During that time, there weren't too many people doing nothing. They said I had a chance to go to Orlando or Tallahassee. So I said, I'm going to Atlanta. But I'm one of the originals. We come out of John Hope. Off Boulevard. I mean, how did that come up? Because a lot of people don't know about the Miami Boys. Yeah, see, they don't get money in Atlanta. We get money in Atlanta where I know from, and we was taking their girls.
Imagine that. The Miami Boys is making money in Atlanta before Big Meech, but either way, Big Meech, he took it to a different level. He took it to a level where everybody else wanted to be like him. They want to make it rain in the club. Imagine that. Big Meech said the reason why he used to make it rain in the club because it took too long to count the ones and the fives. Imagine that. Imagine taking too long to count the one and the fives when you go commit, you know, when you go participate in your criminal activities. That's what he said. But let's get back to it, though.
We're in the dude from Fulton County. Fulton County is Atlanta, Georgia. You talking about the county itself, Fulton. They didn't like niggas from Florida because, especially the Miami boys, because everything they had was whacking, taking all their.
The Miami boys' influence over the city would be so big that an entire generation would witness and endure this influx of violent gang violence over drugs and turf. More drugs began surfacing around. New weapons, then new gangs formed, who would be the OGs of these infamous projects for generations to come. These projects would include the likes of Grady Homes, John Hopes, Perry Homes, Bankhead Courts, Techwood Homes, East Lake Meadows, which crime was so terrible at a point it was being compared to the atrocities of Little Vietnam.
Real criminals
and
in
of
those
course,
areas.
Bowen Homes, made infamous by figures like Shawty Lo.
Man, that Shorty Low, I done it all. I done it all. I have to admit, Shorty Low. When Shorty Low was around, imagine that. Shorty Low, let's get back to it. Don't imagine that. Done it all.
And the Shop Boys. It's a hood made famous by plenty of other rappers and notable figures showing love and shouting out the projects like Bankhead's T.I. and many more.
I was born on the east side of Atlanta, and I was raised on the west side of Atlanta. So I got the chance to experience both sides and really understand it. And then I was raised in probably, well, I can't say probably, it is the hardest projects in East Atlanta was East Lake Meadows. You know what I'm saying? I got a chance to grow up over there. Leaving from there, I ended up moving to Bowen Home on the west side. And Bowen Home is probably the worstest projects on the west side.
Imagine that, the worstest project.
The Bowen Court projects would be one of the hoods immortalized in Atlanta's lore, and it would also be the stomping grounds for a young Lil Marlowe growing up in the streets of Atlanta before they were ultimately destroyed like the rest.
Marlowe, that guy. He just wanted to be a celebrity. He just wanted to be known. He wanted to be famous. Then somebody said,
Rudolph
you know
Simmons Johnson, also known as Marlowe,
I'm gonna hate on him.
was born May the 1st in 1990 in Atlanta to two average parents trying to make amends in one of the city's most notorious ghettos, Bankhead. Bankhead is located on the city's west side, and
they said if Marlowe was still around right now, he'd be 36 years old. Imagine that. I have to admit, a whole lot of individuals know what's going on in Atlanta. But Atlanta's one of those places, though. You know what? Let's get back to it. Though. Imagine that. Let's get back to it, though.
The city's borders of Zone 1, the first out of 6 zones to make up the Atlanta PD's patrol routes. Bankhead at the time would home some of the most dangerous projects in this era of the city, and arguably still does. This is where Marlowe would spend his time growing up, as Bankhead was the neighborhood of the Bowen Homes projects until 2009. Not much is known about Marlowe's early life, but in various interviews he goes in depth into his early childhood and how the streets seemingly chose him from a very young age.
Growing up in the projects, young, wild, you know, I caught early though. I learned how to, like I was ahead of like people my age. Like I used to go hang with all the older people from the hood, get all the game, soak the game up, come back, run.
Marlowe said he used to hang around the old criminals. They mess around, they call it game. Imagine that. Check out part 2 of this video. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe button. They say crime don't pay, but I see him do it though. I'm think about it.